Mama nyoko son o wiye ya son na namu. Kian pane bato we otomo ni o ya do mo si akwiye ya o. Mama nyoko son o wiye ya son den be mu o. Ya kian pane bato we otomo ni o ya do mo si akwiye ya o. Kian se pa yanju o kian se pa yanju o kian ya kian sa pa yanju ka o kian ma si pa yanju ju o so si o lele si o lele o ya si o lele lele o ya si o lele yo amo manyo ko so wi ya son dan be mu Kian pane bato we otomo ni o abiyan me do mo si awiye ya o. Kian se payan jiju o mama. Kian se payan jiju o re son ke. Wo kian ya kian. Kian se payan ju o. Kian ya uri money. Mo re tole se ma bembe son.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Tough Talking Thursday on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jar, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's edition of Tough Talking Thursday, we're going to be looking at some current issues that have been happening in our country, Liberia. And we're going to be talking about those issues so that we can add our view or assessment, analysis to these current events. Some of the issues we're going to be looking at quite recently at the 1 million man march, President Weah accepted his nomination to run for a second term. Also, former Vice President Joseph Newman Boakai is in the U.S. What is he up to? What is he doing? And how crucial is his VP pick? For how long are we going to keep waiting for Mr. Boakai, who promised that he was going to do this a little sooner than the last time? There is a sermon war in Liberia, Pastor George Weah versus Pastor Prince Johnson. And very late yesterday, there is some startling revelation from a one-time friend of President Weah, Sheikh Sackor. Those are the ones we're going to be dealing with tonight. With me to do this, I have our global analyst, Mr. Mansfield Duopu. Mr. Duopu, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Dennis. It's been a pleasure.
Also want to welcome Mr. Kalebo Gonglo, the man who cares so much about numbers that he's teaching math right here in the States. Mr. Gonglo, welcome to the show.
My pleasure. Thank you.
I want to welcome our friend from the ANC, that's the Alternative National Congress, Mr. Jonathan Tayo C. Dolake. See, welcome to the show.
Thank you so very kindly.
And we have our colleague in Monrovia, Mr. Atman Sharif, who is on here, but he's having some technical difficulties, and he's going to join us. Gentlemen, welcome, and we want to welcome our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. I want to start with the first thing is President Weah just accepted his nomination from his partisan at the ATS to run for a second term. And one of the major things he said in the acceptance speech, besides accepting, he said, first of all, he accepted to do it. And this is what he said. He said, and so today I accept your call for me to run for a second term. I therefore appeal to all Liberians to join me in what you started 5 years ago. During that rally, we also saw someone who appears to be a member of the president EPS with a gun. And we will, let me see if I can get even the picture of that. Yeah. And so I think there was a letter of release from the Information Ministry kind of apologizing for such. But what I want us to dwell on today is that acceptance speech. in the acceptance speech. And let me play a little clip. Let me play a little clip of that acceptance speech. And our friend Jonathan will be the first to That's just a short clip from the speech. Jonathan, what the president said in that speech when he went to Kolokwa, he said, they say that you not know nothing. They also say, I myself, and I know nothing. So the very fact that you are following me, who they say, and not know nothing, shows that you are stupid. I remember in Mr. Cummings' response to the Sona said, the president doesn't know what he's doing. So how if so the president is using that plus others what others have said in the past to say, hey, you say I don't. How effective you think the president was doing that? What's your take?
Thank you, Dennis. Like you said, we should keep it short and sweet. And so there are much to say about it, but I would like to say that the president tried to re-energize his base. Firstly, we all must establish that the president and the ruling establishment try to signal that his acceptance speech or his nomination should become a clarion call to the opposition that indeed victory is certain for them. And that is why they point in the 1 million person turnout on a 15,000 or barely 10,000 sports stadium. That was the first thing. The second thing is that the president had just come from a State of the Nation address that he spoke about 15,000 people that were not on payroll and provided by the harmonization scheme. So again, there was a GSC report that again bullied the entire process and put the president immediately after that day under pressure about an adverse audit report from the GSC concerning payroll. So within that space to go on that stadium, of course, the president on an obligation to re-energize his base, to tell his base, like he said before, that everything that damaged in this country, they're the one did it, and I'm the one who is fixing it. Though he was senator of the country, and he did not question the government about some of the excesses that he was complaining about, but he was even laying allegations against people who have not been into government and taken any decision as to what direction the country goes. So it's the same as the president's statement that he said, they say, I know nothing, I will vote for you. And 6 plus 6, that how many years are 12 years. Remember, to close on this, 2005, it was the same matter that the president wrote on. You know book, you not know book, I will vote for you. So the president is re-energizing this thing. But the reason why Mr. Cummings and other political actors will believe that Mr. President Weah does not have an inclination about the space that he occupies, or that he's an accomplice to some of the dangerous things that are happening with the situation of killings, I mean, wanton killings without investigation, demonstrate that President Weah made decisions without contouring it. For example, you say that prices of rice escalation or shortage in the market represent street talk. Just to find out that it jumped from $15 to $17, and then you're struggling to justify it when $11 million cannot be accounted for. So President Weah always shift the goalpost in order to energize the few bills that remain. And President Weah cannot do more than he did 2005, more than he did 2011, more than in the 2017 with 38.4% vote and winning 14 out of 15 counties. He has reached a zenith and he's at a declining ratio. And certainly he's going to come down. That's why he's trying to re-energize his base.
Thank you. Mr. Duopo, do you think the president effectively used that? Because the president is one of the most educated when it comes to credential, but he keeps saying, they say, I don't know book. He got a master's degree. He got 3 honorary doctorate degree. But he's using that. How effective is the president in saying, well, they say you don't know book, I too don't know book, and that's why you are with me. But to test that you are educated 6 plus 6, 12.
Well, I think it's just a populist mantra. You have to ingratiate yourself with the voting populace, because all of us are aware that the level of illiteracy in the country is so high. The majority of those who are going to cast a ballot for any candidate will be people who are not very educated. They don't have the sophistication and all that. So if you look at the voting populace, it's not just his party, but like the country as a whole. We don't have the level of sophistication when it comes to education and literacy in our country.
But
So
the president is not in that group, right? The president doesn't fall in that group.
He's that was saying he's trying to ingratiate himself with that group, and that's politics. He knows the voting populace. He knows the level of illiteracy in the country. He knows that most of the people that make up his party, his party, are people who don't have the level of education that some of us, we purport to have. So he's playing to that. That's political populism. So when he talks about, they say, I don't know nothing and you don't know nothing. And so, it almost like a syllogism. If A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. I'm sure Caleb will agree with me in that mathematical, expression. So in politics too, people use that because it's all about calculation. It's all about gamesmanship. It's all about seeing where the numbers are. And I think to go back to the whole gathering itself, that was monumental, for them to have gathered so many people in that space and all over Monrovia and other parts of the country, in terms of the simultaneous nomination process. That's something that maybe the opposition can take cue from. I hear Mr. Doloke, kind of lambasting the president and all that, and he comes from the Cummins world. I think they should take cue. They should put their acts together and see if they can fill that ATS with the 10 or 15,000 people to show force, to show that you are there, to show your presence. That should be, the beginning of the political process. And I think the process has started in earnest.
Thank you. Mr. Sharif, first of all, welcome. Mr. Sharif is joining us from the nation's capital, Monrovia. Mr. Sharif, what's your take on the president's acceptance speech?
Thank you. Can you all hear me well?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much for having me tonight, Dennis. The program was more it was not a rally from my understanding. It was not a rally. It was rather a petitioning program where the various political parties would come together and nominate the sitting president as the president on this ticket, which is a coalition ticket, to lead the country again and lead the party again. Now, there has been various arguments about the number, but you may argue as you want. The numbers were impressive because if you look at the capacity of the stadium itself, the Anthony Todman Stadium, the seating capacity there, I believe, is around 10,000, 10 or 15,000, somewhere around there. But there were more people on the pitch, on the football pitch itself, in the entire stadium sitting area. But that's not really where you had the most people. Majority of the people were really outside in the different streets, in the different counties, in the different areas. But within the stadium itself, the program started. There was a nomination that was done by the members of the coalition. And after that, we all listened to the president speak. And I think what you heard there, President Weah has a very unique way of communicating with the Liberian populace. And, love it, hate it, he has done that effectively. Regardless of what he says, he will find a way to speak so that the ordinary people will just be able to understand him and, put themselves in that shoes. And that is the kind of a communicator he has been. But overall, he is basically speaking to the base. You know book, you not know book. I think this is what the base has been told over and over. And when somebody begins to tell you something about yourself, you begin to believe it, and sometimes you're proud of it. But I think he connected well with the base, and I think it was a real show of, confidence that the party has in him. And I think it was a great crowd.
And Mr. Sharif, before I let you go, there was also an EPS officer with a CDC uniform with a gun, right? And so
There was a what?
Excuse me?
There was a what?
EPS officer, the people that guide
Yes.
the president. So you can see him with the gun, right, with CDC uniform. I spoke with a security officer. He said that's blending, but they didn't do it well. You have to, if even your security, to blend with the crowd, you wear what the president is wearing, but then you shouldn't have a gun. The Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, through its minister, put out a statement that, hey, the guy who did it did not know the operating procedures of the EPS. In other words, he was not knowledgeable. So do you think this is a contradiction? Because you are already saying, the people say, I don't know nothing. But now you yourself, as government, you are saying the EPS officer does not know what he's doing. Do you? And the president is making this statement. Do you see a contradiction there? Or he's trying to validate that, yes, we don't know anything?
Thank you for that question, Dennis. I'm laughing a little bit because in Liberia, I think we are quick to forget. But the idea, and really, let's look at it. Should a security officer wear that? But I can't really speak on that because I'm not in that area. But like the minister, maybe he didn't know the protocol of the day, what he's supposed to do. But professionally, he probably should not do it. But then let's get back to it.
Right.
This is
the minister is saying he shouldn't do it.
Yes.
And he did that because he doesn't know. He doesn't know the
Yes,
SOP.
he doesn't know. But let's get back to it. This is nothing new in Liberia.
That's not what I'm saying. Why should an EPS officer should not know that?
What's that?
Why would an EPS officer not know that you shouldn't be doing that?
Well, I can't speak for that because I can't put myself in his head to say I can speak for why he did it. But again, he is not the first to have done that in Liberia. He's not the second. These are things that has happened over and over in Liberia. And not to say it is okay for it to be done. I remember back in I think it was in 1986 or 1987, there was a program that President Doe had, and Kekura Koto was there, and he asked all members of NDPR to stand up. And Emma Hammer, the commissioner for National Elections Commission, stood up and sat down and stood up for the second time and he was really confused. Now, I believe Emma was probably a member of NDP from what he showed that day. But sometimes people allow that to actually come out, even though he should be apolitical, he should not be a member of any political party. But sometimes these things happen. If you look at the last regime, there were instances where, people, security officers, will wear T-shirts that
Right.
belong to
I don't mean to
a
interrupt,
leading
Mr.
party.
Sharif. My question is, with the Ministry of Information admitting that this man doesn't know the SOP of the EPS, does it prove that actually the government, like Mr. Comey said, they don't know what they're doing?
I don't think I don't think it's the government. You cannot equate what an individual in an institution does to what the government is doing. No, that is one individual that did something that he probably should not have done, but you can't say that is the whole government. I think I disagree with that narrative.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Gonglo. I mean, what's your take? Everything that I've asked so far about the president's acceptance speech, and with the ministry saying this man doesn't know what he's doing, does it prove that because president say, hey, the people say you're stupid, but you're not stupid? You are muted, sir. Please unmute yourself.
Well, Dennis, here is my take on the matter. You see, we have to be a little bit careful when we looking at this issue when it comes to Liberian government. You see, the act creating the EPS is actually shrouded in secrecy. We don't even know what are the obligations of the EPS officers to the state and to the president. And I mean, Mr. Jopul is here. He's a political scientist. He probably can elaborate further on that. But from my own vantage point, I would say we can choose to either concentrate on the symbolism of the art itself or what the reality of the art itself. The guys who are recruited as EPS officers, they are usually loyalists, are usually party loyalists for every regime. When Salik came to power, the AD came to the president, has been her long-time bodyguard from the 80s, Jeremiah Hinan, who all worked together during 2005 campaign, who worked together, in 1997 campaign, who worked together in 2005 campaign. He became an AD camp. Tell me, you don't have to see Unity Party t-shirt, but you was a bona fide member of the Unity Party, right? So you have to choose, do I need to see him in a uniform or do I not need to see him? He was clearly loyal to Salih. I can even doubt if you're whether you were really loyal to even the state, but I believe you're loyal to Salih first before the state. Okay, so if you look at it in the EPS under the Unity Party level government, a lot of party loyalists were recruited in the EPS. So if we act, we didn't see them in UP uniform. Well, that's just for the sake of argument, but they were clearly UP partisans. When Weah was elected, having to have known some of the hierarchy in the EPS, Weah was sending his CDC partisan list to the director at the time that, hey, we want these people recruited. Joel Harrow was saying all lists and said, these are the people I want in my security detail. These are nothing more loyalists to these people who are in power. That's how he has been historically. Until the polar EP, they are creating the EPS out there and say, this is what they are expected to do. These are the obligations of officers and what they can do and what they cannot do. For me, I'm not going to argue that. I'm going to say on what I know. What I know is the EPS has been fooded, staffed with party loyalists from time to time. Whether it's Toba, whether it's Tolman, whether it's Doe, whether it's Salih, whether it's Weah, the story is the same.
So wearing the party uniform doesn't make a difference.
For me, it's a mood issue for me because these are loyalists. They probably just got in the emotion of the art and was something.
My second question here is a lot of people, like what as Mr. Cummins said in his speech, the man doesn't know what he's doing. So Weah is using this effectively to say, hey, they say we don't know anything.
Yeah,
Is the opposition lowering the bar for Weah and he using that to effectively campaign and get a message to his base?
well, I don't think so. I don't think they're lowering the bar for we are. But my question is, the opposition must choose what to criticize. The challenge for Weah is, in the previous election that he was not a president, this message was powerful for him. Now he is a president. He is now the thesis. It's difficult for him to tell the Yana boys that your condition, it is what it is because of the people, the powerful people who don't want you to succeed. Now he is the most powerful person. That is now the challenge for him. So if I'm in opposition, I will choose what. There's so many lapses, so many failed policies and inaction of the government to go after. One should not be lack of education because the country itself. Look at the educational statistics. Look at the number of kids who are out of school. Look at how many school buildings are owned by government and how many are owned by private institutions. Okay, and even community school. Community schools are even more than what government has built. Community school meaning that you go to Bokonjile people build school, and because they don't have the money to pay teachers, they give it to Ministry of Education. Ministry of Education takes over the assigned teacher, but it was not built by government, right? If you check those type of schools in Liberia, there are more than the one government has actually built. Okay, the type of education that takes place in those structures are one thing in substance and in content in many ways. So you have a country that if you look at the educational profile, you may have even those who can write A and B, you can follow classify them, functional illiterate, or sometimes some of them may not even be able to read at fourth grade level when they even teach middle school. So we have to be careful on how we criticize Weah. If we have this broad breach to just say he's incapable because he's not educated, we have to be careful. He may turn that against those who criticize and say, they say I don't know both. But many of you don't know both too. You people are just like me.
Right. Like and that's what I was asking. Is that working for the president?
That those who don't have that access, he is contributing to the reason why they are not enjoying Liberia, because he's the chief, he's the most powerful person in the country. That is a challenge.
Thank you. Let's go to our next issue, and that's VP or former Vice President Joseph Newman Boakai is in the United States. Before coming to the United States, we heard about the health issues, and people use that to sometimes score political points. There were a lot of rumors about what happened to him, why he was there, who gave him money, and all that. Right after that, he's in the United States. And I learned a fundraising for a rally has been planned for Friends of Boakai and all that. What is VP Boakai actually doing in the United States? He promised that he was going to select a vice presidential pick very soon. How crucial is that? But let me start with, and he's in the States. I found some pictures of the VP. He's making his rounds. You see somewhere he's in socializing with people, and he's making his rounds in the United States. Mr. Adman, you are in Liberia. What is being reported in Liberia? What do you know that the VP is doing in the United States? And how soon do you think we can get a VP pick from the vice president? How crucial is that, or why does he need to do that soon? Too many things I'm asking you, but do the best you can, Mr. Sharif.
Listen, sometimes we Liberians, we make a mountain out of a bark hill. The VP has been going to Liberia. He goes there every now and then to touch base with his base there. But all of these questions about who paid for this, should we really be asking those questions? I think, he's running a political party and he is a responsible man. Let's discuss what is he going to bring on the table rather than think about where he got the money from and all of that. I think those things are really immaterial to be discussing in Liberia. But of course, that's what many people are talking about, and they also tend to discuss his health. Listen, what you can do for anyone that is ill is to wish them well. We can only wish VP Boakai well, whether you support him or you don't support him. I'm sure his supporters will wish him well. But even if you don't support, I think you should wish him well. Um, I think those are the issues that people should really be talking about. The issue of how he's getting the money and when is he coming back. I don't see the news item in there really.
Right. But what is he doing? Do you know? What is he doing in the States? He's a public figure.
Oh, he's a public figure. I don't think there has been any press release to that official press release to that effect. So I can't really speak on that. But I know from time to time, VP Boakai has visited the United States to meet, his partisans in America. What he's doing there specifically, I have not seen or read any press release to that effect. So I don't want to go and, second guess what he's doing there.
Right. And you have any? Are you waiting for him? Why are we not? Why have we not heard anything about his campaign structure or some form of structure and his possible vice presidential pick? You don't think this is needed now, or what's your take?
Well, I think it's still early
Okay.
to tell. He has not done his, but I can tell you CDC has done their part by doing their program, which was last week, Saturday. And I think that opens the door now for other people to come and begin to do other things. The issue of the vice president, that is, I don't think uh, anybody has really passed the deadline on that.
Yeah, no, I
But
don't think so.
of course, people are eager to know who will this vice presidential pick be. The last time VP Boakai picked a VP candidate, that didn't work well for him. And
Right.
so everybody is eager to see what he's going to do this time. But I
Thank you.
think he's still within the time frame.
Mr. Gonglo, how crucial is this vice presidential pick, especially at a time, most of the time his health, his age are in those discussions are always in the news, and then he's in the United States after a health scare. So how crucial is this whole idea of the VP picking a vice president?
Well, Dennis, I think among all of the aspirants, so since there's no candidate as yet, because Ned has not qualified and won yet. So among all of the aspirants, I think for Ambassador Boakai, his VP pick is the most it's going to be the most news that people want to listen to.
Why so?
Not because he's the most popular, but because of his age. Because of his age and because of the much publicized issues about his health. So whoever he picks, that person is like in any other VP, potential president, but in his case, the probability in the public sphere would be much more higher than Weah VP pick or Councillor Gonglo VP pick or Alexander Cummings VP pick. Even though the event or neutrality or death can happen at any age, okay? But because of his age, because of his much talk about health, his VP pick is going to be more the most crucial one for the public to discuss, okay? And for me, from my the way I look at it is like there was an attempt to unify the opposition through the CPP. That failed. Now, you have a fractured opposition now going against an incumbent who has no limit on how much he can spend, who has, the biggest microphone in the country. So clearly, Ambassador Boakai is the leading opposition leader in the country, no doubt. The United Party is the largest opposition party, just like CDC was before. So the way the President Weah, the ruling party, is moving ahead, they didn't just announce the VP issue on the acceptance. I think late last year, Joel Howard Taylor and the NPP had a convention and they nominated her, confirmed that she's going to be running with Weah. And I think to some extent, Weah probably even made a statement to that effect. I think he and Joel Howard Taylor appeared at one program that it was clear that both of them were actually basically just re-cementing their relationship and they were going to run. So it's in public view. But there's still waiting and expectation from in the opposition camp. And because of the much talk about background negotiation among opposition leaders, whether true or not, there is a rumor that, VP Boakai is talking, or other people may be talking to Boakai who are maybe declared candidate. Because of that, they may be waiting and say, you know what, I don't know what the leading opposition leader decision may be. I'm going to wait for him to make a choice. Let's take, for example, just for argument's sake, if VP Boakai decides I'm going to choose maybe in April, okay, that will actually cause chaos in the opposition. And because of that, if Alexander Cummings decides to hold and say, no, I'm talking to VP Boakai to see if we can unify the opposition. If Councillor Gongo say, I'm talking to VP, I'm saying if though, I'm not saying he is. If he say, I'm talking to VP Boakai to see how we can unify the opposition. So I'm holding back on announcing a full ticket yet. The opposition will be seen as weak, as not been prepared to face Weah, so they don't even know what to do. And that will actually play to the advantage of the ruling party that has already started spending money by holding a simultaneous nomination process in the 15 counties. I watched Nima County. It was quite impressive. Whether people turn out because they were giving money, crowd politics is the fact everywhere in the world, even in the United States. When Donald Trump launched, when Donald Trump was holding rally, the crowd size was the debate among journalists, among panelists. The crowd size was deciding that yes, whether they are going to vote for him, they were taking interest to listen to him. At least, if you listen to the president, you become an agent to carry whether the bad news or good news to your communities. And that is important. Whether those people were paid $15, $10, $50, or whatever, whether they were given t-shirt, that's why they came, but at least inadvertently, wherever they live, whichever house they live in, people saw them go to CDC t-shirt and walk out, and somebody got to know, somebody left from their house today to go support George Weah. Whether they agree or not, it was a free publicity, and I think it's powerful in politics anyway. And we in the opposition, we should not overlook that.
Thank you. And our reporter spoke to some of those at the rally, and they said nobody gave them a penny. They did that on their own accord. Now, the few of them we spoke to. Mr. Dolake, I don't think Mr. Cummings is the right person to call on VP Boakai for a vice presidential pick, because Mr. Cummings has not done his either. In fact, his at least VP Boakai, we are hearing some names, but Mr. Cummings has held everything very tight. How crucial you think is VP Boakai's vice presidential pick? Is that what Mr. Cummings is waiting for? Or what's going on here? You are an insider. Tell me.
No, I don't think Mr. Cummings is waiting for anybody vice presidential pick, because that's a historical come to that effect. But I'd like to, just before I take on this vice presidential pick, I'd just like to throw back on this EPS thing very quickly.
Okay.
In the SOP, according to the security reform sector of the Republic of Liberia, and we should not stop or we should not, try to second guess or try to fine tune it. In the SOP of the security sector reform, BF NSA, be it EPS, be it AFL, and all security sector, there is nowhere for any reason whatsoever that a security personnel should carry a party regalia. Absolutely, especially so with arms, leaving the public in speculation as to whether it's a CDC security, given that arms have been coming to the country surreptitiously, or whether that government security. More than that, marching in front of the president, the speaker, the protem, is a clear approbation that indeed this is strictly of EPS, CDC security, just to protect the president and the government that it is. So I just wanted to clear that part up very clearly, that they acted knowing it and they acted on purpose. Let me go to the conversation of GMB peak. Look, we can have it all as whether be opposition, ruling position. The former vice president have been in national government, have been in leadership role for a longer time. The former vice president has served 12 years as vice president. If anyone was to guess who is struggling to second guess who will be that vice standard bearer, at least it would not be the former vice president for all guests. That would be an understanding, because he knows bulk of the people, he has worked with them, and he will know how to pick. So,
but are you saying Mr. Cummings has the latitude to waste a little bit of time to pick his running mate?
No, I'm not saying he has the latitude. I'm not even trying to give anyone an edge over the vice president. I'm not saying that if someone worked in government for 40 years and they have served 12 years as vice president, they will know the kind of people to deal with quickly. And, you know, it will not be something that will scratch your hair or will have to vex people easily about. But what is more important about that thing is that how did the former vice president pick his former vice standard bearer, who in most instances, or by the public outcry and public opinion, was not the best pick for him in 2017, to the extent to which the person immediately was working in the George Weah government, and to a larger extent, we don't even understand as to whether that friendship ever existed after 3 months down the line. So it gave reason now for people to think that would it be the same kind of pick that the vice president would make that he made last time? That would be many people guess. But notwithstanding, we have to give everyone the opportunity. The National Elections Commission has laid out clearly. Mr. Cummings and his political party have said it quite squarely that indeed they will be picking. They are doing a vetting. They're going to consider everything, and they will do the best to puff out a vice presidential candidate that can add up to his strength and do what he would not be able to do in specific time and period. So let us hold on to it and look at how the vice presidential pick. But what is very important is that the United Party, as it moves to the vice presidential pick, and this is not to divide the opposition, there is still a Unity Party without collaboration or alliance. Unlike there is an ANC, but the registration of the National Elections Commission with a CPP through Liberty Party and ANC. So it's a sticky thing as to whether the ARP will just, on a general note, accept that Unity Party is the coalition party, or will there be an instrument to band them together in order to go together? That is the more technical thing that I think Ambassador Boakai is looking up to, especially given the case with Yombly and Musa Berete, in order to make a determination whether he will choose Madam Yombly or Mr. Yue or probably Mr. Costa as his running mate. I think that's my line of thought concerning it.
But do you agree with Mr. Gonglo that it is important that Mr. Boakai do that quickly, even before, and that will set the tone for Mr. Cummings, Councillor Gonglo, and the rest of the opposition aspirants?
I think Mr. Cummings, it does not advantage anybody within the opposition realm. Mr. Cummings had publicly said last year that within the first quarter he will be thinking about picking a vice presidential candidate. People are working on names. They're going to vet their criteria set, and from there he will make a pick from the names that will be suggested, and he's going to declare that person at the CPP convention too. So most of the things happen during convention, unlike President Weah, who did his, during the coalition signing of some of the members, with the absence of other members who are also bickering, and there's still unsettled dust within the CDC. So it's going to be a pull and string situation here and there until that nomination process is announced and people have the presidential candidate still up for the election.
And one last question for you is, because you're a member of the ANC, we don't. What do you know about VP Boakai's visit in the United States? And is that strange, or is that the same thing the ANC would do? Really, don't tell us much about what they're doing.
Yes. So VP Boakai have been visiting America a couple of times. I don't think it should be on news, but some of the reason why this thing is making news, like his son resignation, Atlanta, his son has resigned from LMA, Liberia Maritime Authority, and all these things will make news because the timing, VP Boakai fall into sickness. I tell anyone it's nothing to pray for. Young men can fall sick, old people can fall sick. I mean, it is natural, but for the party to not be able to manage it, and then his sickness and how government will infiltrate, assist in that process, coming from Kev Hassan, with a gossip between Kev and the president, then the party coming to defend it before the family, and all those things gave the rationalization that people are now carrying on, that maybe his coming here was meant for health, maybe his coming here, as it is said, that it's meant for fundraising for political party. Some say it's meant for foundation, and everyone wants to know exactly where he's staying and how he's faring. But I can say that it is not the crux of the matter. VP Boakai has been visiting America several times. He has a foundation. He's a political character. He needs to come and lobby with his diaspora friends in order to make things happen for him. So I think he's just trying to cultivate that.
Thank you. Mr. Drupo, let's talk about the way VP Boakai's handlers in really getting information out there, even has to what is purpose here. We've seen some pictures. People have criticized some of these pictures that, the VP doesn't look really strong to be out there doing things that, like he's socializing, he's playing. They want to see him, in official capacity doing something, holding talks and all that, right? And also, how crucial is this vice presidential pick as of today?
It is important, but before I speak on that, let me just piggyback on this EPS, quote unquote EPS, or
the Mika people apologize already. They say they
I know they apologize, but I just want to speak on it just briefly.
Okay.
Then I think, like Mr. Doloke, elucidated, even when people have loyalists or partisans, when they take political offices, and with the belief that certain people should be around them, those people, when you go to the national security apparatus, you are fully vetted, you are trained, you will take an oath of office to your entire focus is the preservation of the Constitution. Your loyalty is to the upholding of the Constitution. So when people are security detailed to people in public places, government officials, why it's true that there's a thin line between your loyalty to your VIP and the Constitution, but your whole focus should be upholding that constitutional oath that you've taken. So to see, somebody in a party, uniform with arm, that was clear. It was a clear violation. I know they must have apologized, but somebody needs to be reprimanded. You can just leave that and just hope that it doesn't happen again. There's somebody who has supervisory authority over that person. That person needs to be reprimanded for such an infraction, because you can't be in the public like that, holding a weapon, wearing a party, T-shirt, a party cap, and trying to protect a VIP. It's
right. I think the Justice Minister said something to that effect.
So I hope we shouldn't just sweep that under the rug, because it also tells us about some of the imbalances and some of the faults of our governance architecture. Because the security sector reform is clear. I was at the Governance Commission 10 plus years ago, and we helped in crafting that whole security sector reform. It calls for an apolitical security apparatus. Apolitical. You are above politics. There are certain positions, even in the government, especially in integrated institutions. You are not to be aligned or leaning with any political party. I see people
Thank you.
These institutions going to political parties meetings, writing on Facebook. That is clearly wrong. It undermines our democracy, it undermines our governance architecture. So I just want to speak to that before coming to the VP Boakai issue. So the whole VP Boakai issue, because politics is all about timing. Time is always the essence in our daily lives, corporate lives, professional lives. Whatever you do, time is important. And there's something political science, there are two dilemmas in politics. There's a chicken dilemma and there's a prisoner's dilemma. So what I see happening, the gamesmanship between Boakai, the opposition in its entirety can be summed up in a chicken's dilemma. One person wants to see what the other person does. One person's move will be another person's calculation. So to have a vice presidential pick is not something that I will wait for a particular time. When you have a vice presidential pick in mind, you start to espouse that in your political talk, in your deliberations, meeting your partisans, in public discourse. You try to tell the people who you will desire, who you want to see as your running mate, because a running mate speaks volume. What does the person bring to the table? What's the person, the person's experience, the person's gravitas? All these things, people factor these things in political calculation. So you don't have to wait. You don't have to push this thing till maybe nomination, the elections commission. Right now, the ruling party is far ahead. They've had their nomination program. You can see that momentum is gathering. And you now, as an opposition, you need to start that momentum. You need to gather your base. You need to tell people who you desire to have. You make the public pronouncement. Do you want a woman? It speaks volumes. Do you want somebody who has education, the experience? What do you see in a vice presidential pick? Is that somebody who will just be another packed car? No, you want somebody who will give the ticket balance, who will bring weight to the ticket. Somebody who will be ready on day one if the president is incapacitated. You want to make those kind of public pronouncements. You want to showcase that person. You want to start bringing people. I see the vice president, VP Boakai. He has a lot of young talents around him. You saw the pictures. He has a lot of young guys around him, his handlers and all that. Those are young, vibrant Liberians. People sometimes they look at your youth and they think that's a fault. No, it's the next generation of leaders. You got to start bringing those people in the fore. Start cultivating those people. That is one of the problems of our country's democratic architecture, because people have always been seen as the one lone ranger who has all the power, does not share power. We live in a shared power world. There are a lot of powerful people around that you can use, you can bring in the fore, and you can start cultivating the next generation of leaders. We don't see that in our country's, political socialization. It's very wanting. It undermines our quest for democratic governance. So I think Mr. Comey will do himself well. Mr. Boakai will do himself well. Mr. Gonglo, the three major opposition people will do themselves well if they start showcasing people who they want as a vice presidential pick. You don't have to be official about it, but in subtle ways, you can bring those people to programs, you can showcase them, you can make them speak on your behalf, you can make them articulate your policy and your whole vision about the country. Then people will know that you are serious for this that. It's not just about you.
Do you see that in any of these candidates?
It's about leadership.
Mr. Duopo, do you see that in any of these aspirants as to what they're thinking or what the thought process is when it comes to picking a VP?
Well, what we've heard is just these snippets of, Yumli Kanga here and Musa Belete here. And that kind of pronouncement to be official. You want make sure it's coming from the horse's mouth, as they say. You want to make sure this person is showcasing this person, carrying the person to programs, telling the story. It's about telling that narrative.
What I was asking, can you tell what VP Boakai, for instance, his thought process about picking a vice presidential running mate? In which direction do you think he's looking? Have we had any signals?
I can't make any insinuation or conjecture on where he's looking. It has to come from him. I'm a political scientist, but I don't make conjectures. I don't make insinuations. My theory, my political conception is based on practical things that I see.
But you can see that he's not really looking. You can tell his direction.
If he was looking, we will see it. We will hear it in public pronouncement that he's
that's what I'm saying. Do you see that?
Such a person? So that gives confidence, But it remains to be seen. It remains to be heard from these three major players. We have to make sure that they tell us, they kind of pressing the one. They kind of people the one around them, So that will help them in so far as galvanizing that base. Because Mr. Weah and his party, they have a nose ahead of the game. They go far ahead. So they have to do the catching up. So time is of the essence. So they shouldn't play that chicken dilemma,
Right. Mr. Ahmed, Mr. Sherry, I want you to conclude on this. You think they all play the chicken dilemma but at least we have heard some names when it comes to vice presidential, the former Vice President Boakai. But for Mr. Cummings, it's nothing. So it's giving people to even speculate, okay, what is he really looking for? Is he waiting for a signal from somebody else? And then when it comes to Councilor Gonglo, it's like, is he even considering a vice presidential candidate? What is his thinking? Because other people are saying, oh, he started too late, so maybe he's only doing this for to be vice president to somebody. So maybe by him picking someone now will tell people, oh, this is serious. He's really going for the kill. What are your thoughts?
Dennis, the one thing that everybody is trying to shy away from is what we all know, and that is all of these parties are really in chaos to the point where nobody can sit with the next person to discuss anything.
How is that chaos? They are independent parties.
They are independent parties, but within the opposition parties, there's a lot of chaos going on. Even when the parties were together as a CPP, it came to a point where there was so much confusion. This person cannot talk to this person, and this person is not talking to this person, and everything just broke apart. So all of the talks in the past that who would be president, who would be vice president, everything broke apart. And that continues to go on even up to now. And this is where CDC has really come ahead of everybody else. My brother Dopo was talking about Nyamli and Musa Belete, but those are two different branches of the Liberty Party also. So all of these parties are so broken that you cannot even consider one of them. One of them is on the other side, the other one is on the other side. So the whole thing is really confusing as to what they could really do or what they would really be doing. It would be very interesting to see what they come up with. But to be honest with you, I don't see that coming out so easily over the next 1 month or so because they just don't have anybody.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Tough Talking Thursday. We are discussing some current issues here. President Weah's acceptance speech, VP Boakai in the U.S. and his potential running mate. And that leads us to our next topic, which is the Sackor War. There's a war being fought. There's a Sackor War. Pastor to pastor. Let's take a listen. We started with Pastor Prince Johnson.
Let me ask you one question. If I had a gun right now and gave you to shoot your own head, or if you had a gun, when you shoot your head, what will happen to you? You are dead. Can you shoot yourself on the head 3 times? So what happened in Tabata? He lied. He told you to be killed. Why can I sign your agreement? Do you believe I don't assault regime? Yes, sir. Do you believe that the revenue of
people trying to manipulate? I'm impressed. I blow up program. Until I came from water room, I blow up program. So people don't impress me. Especially people that you bring people every day, already, they want to blackmail you. Anybody that don't want to vote for us will not be blackmailed. Anybody that will ask me for money because they're going to declare for my party, I'd rather get the money to the people that when you can speak to them on the table now, they're going on air,
Those were snippets of the sermons preached, one at the Prince Johnson's church, I forgot the name, and the other one at President Weah church, the Fokkekron church. And I think they being in the news, I think you heard, at least for Pastor Johnson, we heard the topic Saul regime. And the president came with a counter sermon. Mr. Gonglo, our society has become very Christianized now, or religious, and so we have preachers, and this is not the first time, but these preachers are whipping each other with sermons. You heard the two. What's your take?
Well, first, I would say the exchanges itself, it's not good for our country. That's the first thing I would say. For the sitting president and a senator to have such exchange, one is alleging the government actually committed a murder, and the other one is countering ahead. You are a killer, you are a blackmailer. I mean, that's not good for our country. That's the first thing, because they have followers. If their followers take these as instruction to go after each other, that's a potential chaos. So that's the first thing I would say. But on the merits of the issue they're talking, really, Senator Johnson is a senator. He has an oversight on the security sector. In fact, he was once chairman of the, if I'm not making a mistake, he was chairman when those acts that he considered government murder took place. He was stopped him from calling hearing at the Capitol building of the security sector to say, hey, this has happened. They report that the person shot himself twice or 3 times in the head. As a military person, I don't find it to be truthful. Come before the Senate. I'm calling for a hearing. What's stopping him from doing that? He did not do that. Now he's talking about it. Okay, so it makes people question whether there's something that caused him to say it, or whether it is actually a genuine thing he's talking. That's one observation. The other thing is, from President Weah's perspective, there could be a legitimate reason that, hey, there is a sanction issue over pay to play. I don't want to be caught in the web, so I'm going to play the game differently. I mean, so there are all of Liberia is full of rumors, because sometimes public officials don't say the truth to the public, so we live by listening to different rumors. Yeah, there are rumors that there was a private meeting between President Weah and Senator Johnson to try to keep it secret, so the Americans will know that he's dealing with him. And he said to Senator Johnson, hey, I want your support, but I don't want you to support me publicly. I want you to support me quietly in your community, in your party, but don't support me publicly because I don't want that. I don't want the Americans to think that I'm dealing with you. Anything I have to do with you, it will be private. It will be through a third party. I will not come direct to you. And that didn't go well down with the senator. And there are rumors that there was demand in return that if you want me to do this, you got to do this. If you don't, so that whole thing about blackmail and what have you, there are rumors that it was actually a face-to-face meeting and there was disagreement over how it should be done. And there where the whole thing just kind of went in the flames. Okay. But Peter has admitted, I think it's not good for the country, for the two persons to make that open trade of water wars. It's not good because we are in the election year. Emotions are going to be high. Followers are going to be taking just even public disagreement as marching order to get at the other person. Okay, so our leaders have to be careful on what they say to the public. I mean, so far that's my take.
Mr. Drupu, clearly, Senator Johnson is making this allegation of things that happened a few years ago. The latest being, and you'll be surprised. I mean, if nobody tells you that it's a church, you won't think that there was a sermon. But he made those, and there have been allegations that during this time he will say things and do things, and he knows the political landscape very well. Do things that will, make his prize as the kingmaker to go up. President Weah on the other side is saying, hey, if you leave the coalition, your people that got job with all will take them from there. This was a clear that kind of, I don't want to say pay to play, but kind of the same thing that people are saying, right? But like your selections and all these things, it's not based mainly on qualification. It's hey, if you support me, you get job in return. If you stop supporting me, you lose the job. These are grave allegations that the two leaders maybe like joking about.
Yeah. You see why most people don't go to church? No wonder why I do church online. I can just click the button. If I don't want to hear the pastor preaching or what he's talking about, I can just switch to another channel. But suffice as to say, this whole thing, politics makes strange bedfellows. Politics is about gamesmanship. It's about calculation. It's about trying to, outmaneuver, subterfuge, and all that. Those are the ingredients of politics, and what is obtaining is all about positioning, how you position yourself to become relevant. Like Caleb said, we're in an elections year. People will be gaming the system. People will be gaming each other. People will be trying to see where others are, in terms of the whole political machination. So Prince Johnson, like him or loathe him, he's a major king player. He's somebody who comes with a lot of gravitas. Even during the Ellen Johnson Sirleaf administration, he and Ellen Johnson had gone at it on many occasions when he knows that he's in a better position to kind of assuage and make demands and get what he wants. He starts with, his church. They go into the pulpit. People go there to listen. And, Liberians, we are highly Christianized. We go to church and listen to the pastor, and we take those things home and make it part of our political orientation. And Mr. Weah himself has his own church. No wonder why one of the first things he constructed was a church. Because, like Karl Marx, he said religion is the opium of society. People get intoxicated with religion, they leave their economic situation, their depravity, and they go to church to seek salvation, to have, the material needs fulfilled. So those are some of the reasons why people go to church, So, but in the political realm, the U.S. is watching. They have had an eagle eye on what is happening in Liberia. Somebody talked about the sanction, Prince Johnson's role when it comes to elections as far back as Ellen administration, how he played that overarching role in moving things, in moving, certain candidates in certain directions that have made him to gain, public offices. So, I mean, he sees himself as this person who can circumvent anybody's aspiration of becoming president because of the vastness of Nima's, political position in Liberia as one of the major counties that is vote rich. So what I see here is something that is about gamesmanship. They both are looking at who's going to blink first, who's going to make the overture, who's going to reach out to say, look, let harmonize this thing. It's all in our mutual interest that we collaborate. Because if you have to win this election, Nima County has to be on your side, and if I have to be this, person who people look up to, I have to be a major player. So it's always about gamesmanship. I don't put a lot of currency in what's happening, although, the PR, the optics are bad. The president on one, pulpit and a major county senator at another pulpit, trading barbs and, making mockery of the democracy that we all envisage to strengthen. So it doesn't bode well for our democracy. But these are personal fields, that people won't bring to the political the political theater for their supporters to gain from it. And Prince Johnson said he's not running. There's a young guy who, is the Senate brother of his party. And this guy, what I heard, is being positioned to be a running mate to somebody, giving that entire vote to whoever that will take that fellow to be his running mate. So it's all about gamesmanship. I don't see it going much further. It won't affect anything. At the end of the day, I think somebody's going to blink. Somebody's going to make the overture. And, politics will be politics.
Right. And just a full disclosure, that young man, father, comes from Dudukan, my town. So if he's vice presidential candidate, he will be the first person from Dudukan to do so.
Well, good for you. Dudukan will have, they will have a say in the national discussion because some, backward, in the southeast there, nobody knows about Dudukan. So if that guy, succeeds to become vice president, that will give Dudukan, some voice. So let hope and see. We as watchers of all these things, observers and theoreticians, these are things that salivate us. We can write about it, we can talk about it, and people can discuss it in every sphere of life.
Thank you. Let me go to Ahmed now, Mr. Sharif. As I said, Mr. Johnson is a sitting senator, so some of these issues could be addressed, from where he sits as a lawmaker. President Weah, take some of these policy decisions and talk about them so lightly at the pulpit. Today, there's a gentleman who went at the Capitol building and said, hey, with all these posters here, it look like you are running campaign. So he took into his own hand to tear them down. And then he was dragged out of there by security officers. I mean, it's like there's no longer laws and the right channel to follow in the country. This president is making big policy statement behind the pulpit and say, hey, I will fire this person, I will do this. Senator Johnson is also doing these things. But let me show Mr. McLean Randall, who took law in his own hands today, and take a listen.
McLean Randall, we hear DTV on the ground of the Capitol building. Why are you doing this? And you see he's taking down the billboard that was just placed here. When the president announced or addressed the nation. So we say welcome to TV Online, wherever you're watching from. His name is McLean Randall. And you see he's tearing.
So the security officers from the Capitol came and dragged him out of there. I mean, his clothes were torn up and he's rubbed in the street. He said he's heard I spoke to him. Everybody's taking law in their own hand, and everybody is doing things as if the country would no longer have as in the word of the MICAD boss, standard operating procedures to go by. Mr. Sharif.
Dennis, in the first place, everywhere in the world, be it Israel or many other countries around the world, there is a coalition government, because sometimes you find it hard, especially in a polarizing country, which our nation is no exception, to find one political party to actually be able to win election. So a lot of times you have to go into coalition to be able to come together and bring people together and share in the coalition. But after Chamberlain died in 1940 and Winston Churchill took over Great Britain in the heat of the war, things were really tough for him, because Britain was being decimated, and he was, how can he work on other countries joining Europe to fight this war against Hitler? And it was a lot of negotiations. And somewhere in there, he said, we neither fear to negotiate, nor do we negotiate in fear. A lot of times in Liberia, people do not want to negotiate. Instead, they want to use some kind of a way to get what they want. And that is a little example of what you saw in that video that you just showed. And Dr. Martin Luther King went on to say about something like that. In the process of gaining our rightful places, we should not be guilty of wrongful deeds. We must conduct our struggles on a high plane of dignity and discipline. What the young man is doing there is wrong. You can't just go out and begin to break things because you disagree with it. I think you have to follow some kind of a means if that's what you really want to do. Now, let's go back to the war of words. As
Right, and I want to, since you talk about a young man, what's about the security people that came and dragged him out of there and threw him in the street, beat him up? Are they right?
Well, what he did, he was committing a crime. What he did was he was vandalizing.
Right. So when the security people meet you vandalizing, then they use force.
Of course, yes. When that is done everywhere, whether it is in your
so what happened next? Would they take him to court? Would they take him to the police?
I think the idea was just to remove him. I don't know what happened there. I wasn't really there. I haven't heard.
No, I saw what happened. They threw him in the street, and that was the end. They moved back.
Yeah, they moved back, but I think that was really the end of it. I don't think they're going to take him to court for that. But
so if he committed crime, is that the result? Is that all to it? So it's, and my question here is because the senator who's supposed to be doing something about this is sitting there in his church talking. This president is saying, "Hey, you do this, we'll move you." These are things that are policy issues. He's talking them in the church, and now young Randall McLean is taking laws in his own hand. Security forces are doing the same thing. Isn't this chaos?
No, security forces are not taking law into their own hand. Security forces were simply removing someone who was acting disorderly. Now, you don't just go somewhere because you disagree with something and you go out and begin to tear posters down. You are going to meet up with some kind of a reaction. And I think in that case, they're removing from the premises. But let's go to the real issue. Dennis, like I said earlier, sometimes we disagree, no matter who we are. But when we begin to use heinous words towards each other, then it makes it difficult for us to sit down and really talk. I think Senator Johnson's choice of words by calling the president a murderer who has murdered people, or planning to assassinate him, I think he went a little too far. And I can imagine President Weah also being a human being. Sometimes when you are a human being, people tell you certain things, you are going to react in a certain way. And sometimes in that heat of the moment, you're not really going to think about it, especially when somebody accuses you of some of the most heinous thing that you know within yourself is not in your character. So the president responded, and as a human being, I think that's what he did. But all of these things here, I think, is what negotiation. People should sit down and negotiate. If Senator Johnson sees that this is not going well for him, I think there is a way to sit down and begin to have a conversation. But when we begin to call each other names, especially when we are not little kids, uh, the other person could also react, regardless of it being the president or not. I mean, it could have been in my shoes or in your
The
shoes.
president, Mr. Sharif, the president called Senator Johnson a blackmailer, a killer, and all that you're saying he did that as a reaction.
Of course,
because he was angry.
Well, I don't know angry, but I think he reacted. I don't know angry. He was reacting to what was said about him. When somebody says that you are planning to assassinate them, then they are going to, if they can, whatever they can use against you, they are going to come out and use the same thing against you. But really, I don't think, like Mr. Gonglo and Mr. Dopo said, I don't think that's where the conversation should really be heading. I think we should have a more civil conversation, regardless of what our disagreements are. But if we begin to make those kinds of heinous accusations, then of course we are also going to expect some kind of reaction based on how that person also feels.
Thank you, Mr.
In that case, the president actually reacted.
Thank you. Let's talk about the summer wars.
And so the summer war, firstly, there is no need to gloss over issues of national concern and how the president has been an accomplice to the downward suffering of our people. Senator Johnson was very clear, and his MDR had been on record. It's good to be honest. They have said time without number that their agreement with President Weah and the Coalition for Democratic Change came to an end October last year. They were either to accept new negotiation if it was reasonable or to disembark. That situation moved to Senator Johnson being the godfather of the party and Jeremiah Kuhn being the political leader or standby of the party. Senator Johnson came on record on one major issue, or two better. He said President Weah has said repeatedly that he met a broke country and a broke economy. That was his major count. And when you heard that from President Weah from the onset, that was 2019 or 2018, he issued a communication to the pro tem to be put on the floor so that President Weah can declare the turnover note as to how the country became broke and as to what had been the former president's statement that the country was not broke. That communication was denied by Abachi, the pro tem, and we can all understand because Senator Johnson again was collaborating with them, so it was easier to understand. Now President Weah comes back to respond. Senator Johnson said that there is no one, it is not possible security-wise, even those are on the platform, that someone will shoot himself in the head 3 times. So it didn't make sense. Why he did not call for security investigation is another thing. But the burden still rests on the government for the executive arm to answer to these questions. He also went ahead to speak about threat on his life. Now, if Mr. Sherry is saying because he pronounced threat on his life, it means that the president will have to respond through a fucking clone church from the church in that manner and form. They demonstrate that indeed President Weah does not know the environment, the space he found himself. Because the first thing to have done is try to own the life of one of the citizens, whether it is you, whether it's Roman, whether it's not established by fact, is to establish a committee to investigate from the executive arm. But unfortunately, because you're already in a beef with Senator Johnson, he goes ahead to accuse him of extortion, something that the global Magnitsky spoke about. He goes ahead to say that he will not give money, meaning that he had given money in previous time by essence. He goes ahead to say people who killed, meaning that he knew that Senator Johnson killed for his section, but he did business with him. He brings back the play about Yaka Kolba allegation about he taking part in Modia revolution. So he hangs a whole lot of dike behind a bike in a 9 months to 10 months to elections. And it is a difficult thing for President Weah to even lay on jobs. No country in the world that the government provide more jobs other than the direct investment that come into the country. So he just constraining himself. And at the end of the day, President Weah can no longer, ever in his history, be popular more than 2005, be popular more than 2011, be popular more than 2017. It is impossible and it is unthinkable for anyone to think that. And to reduce the argument that the opposition must amalgamate to have 10 political parties to win George Weah, it is lazy and unreasonable because President Weah took only 3 parties to win an election. And the best result he got was 38% in the first round. The rest of the runoff election was an amalgamation of forces. So President Weah have lost track of his movement. President Weah can no longer gain the steam. So he will say everything and anything to energize his base. Of course, winning 14 out of 15 counties. Someone cannot tell me that he cannot fill the ATS. That President Weah launched campaign on a Friday and Mr. Cummings launched campaign on a Saturday Eve. The next day after President Weah and the CATS was still filled. So the quiet gimmick, they cannot help that situation. President Weah is on an obligation to account for the auditors who died, that he said that he learned that were girlfriend and boyfriend in car. To talk against someone family of that nature, it is wrong, and that is why President Weah will be rejected by the Liberian people.
Thank you. If you're watching us and want to be part of the conversation, please dial the number on the screen, 605-313-6004. The code is 791403#. Our time is fast spent, so we will not be going into our next issue. Mr. Gonglo, I want you to conclude on this Prince Johnson and President Weah sermons of war. President Weah clearly said, hey, we're not giving you fasting. And according to Mr. Dolaka, because the way he said it is like he has been given fast sentencing before, but this time it's not happening. So the way I put that in a joke form is President Weah finally breaking out of the hostage situation. He said, you can't do this to me anymore. My cup is full. Let's conclude on it and we will get some colors. Mr. Gonglo.
My understanding from different sources in Nimba, what I see happening is that I think the guys in CDC or President Weah now has new strategy. I think in time past, they dealt with one person, an arrowhead, and say, well, PYJ, here is what we have for you. Go talk to your people. So I think what I observed them doing now is they are giving whatever they have or they intended to give to Senator Johnson. They give it to his lieutenants directly and say, y'all go talk to your people. So I see a stampede in Nimba. I hear from, so I monitor sometimes some of the radio station. I see a stampede. People feel some of his, former comrade feel liberated, that they now have access to the almighty God, the US dollar line. They can now get that directly from President Weah. If I have talked to 3 of the guys who have argued with me in different chat rooms, who could basically go in a lane for Senator Johnson. I've seen them completely change their tone in recent times, and I managed to call one of them directly, and he said to me, I met President Weah yesterday. In fact, the president revealed a lot to us that they've been giving to the senator to do, and he didn't do it. They give the senator money to build a city hall in Ganto. They gave money to build city hall in Campley, in Ban, and in Secretary. He consumed the money. President Weah told us all these things. Now, so I see a new strategy. I don't know how far it's gonna go, but I think a lot is going out there, and I think Nimba is going to probably be an epicenter of 2023 because of the fracturing of the MDR. Even within the MDR, there is one group that said they must go to Cummings. The other group said they must go to Boakai. The other group said they must go to Weah. The other group said they must stay on their own. So MDR is actually fractured into probably 5 different fractions, and they are taking the airways. And all these, they're not doing it because of commitment. They're doing it because of the almighty U.S. dollar. So it's causing a lot of talk on the radio station in Nimba.
Thank you. Let's hear from our first caller. What do you think of all this happening? And I will later, Mr. Dolake has an opposition guy will also react as to, well, it looked like the president is depending on something, man. He's liberated. He should be sure of something. What is Mr. Cummings doing? Call out your name and where you're calling from.
Hi, Mr. John. This is Elvis calling from Minnesota.
Go ahead, Elvis, you are live.
Yeah, hello to the panelists tonight. Big shout out to Mr. Gongo tonight. I think he's been really balanced in his analysis. He's been fair. And also to Mr. Sharif, I think he's been really calm and analytical in his analysis. But just touch on Mr. Dolake for a second, talking about crowds and trying to diminish the president's, acceptance or petition, ceremony. Compare that to your entire suffering rally. Look at the crowd size compared to the president's. So let's not be hypocritical, because your guy comes nowhere close to the president when it comes to popularity. As Mr. Gongo also attested, even in Nimba, people show up in the masses to support the president. The people who are suffering, the people who are in the village who are dying for hunger, who are living in abject poverty, they're supporting the president. Not saying that he's doing very well for everybody, but they knew what happened before during Ellington. People talk about, education. The president is not educated. You had a Harvard-trained, educated, president who was in that country for 12 years. What transformational change that she made in that country that is lasting today, that the people can see it? Let's just ponder on that for a second. Went to one of the best schools in the world, and our economy is one of the worst. She had an inflated economic status when the UN was there of 500, external $500+ million were infused into our economy when she was there for almost those 12 years. So it gave us a false sense that everything was going well. Once those people left, everything went downhill. From the time the UN left, our economy has been going downhill since then, even before Ellen Johnson left the presidency. And then let's just come back to, the vice president, picks. I would want to see the day where a Democrat would pick a Republican as their running mate. Everybody is looking for somebody outside of their party to be their running mate. How is that even possible? You have Mr. Cummings on his show. He talk about he wants somebody opposite of him. This is not a romance where you say opposite attract. This is not a magnetic field. You want somebody who shares the same vision as you, so that when you are not able to complete your vision, that person can carry on that vision for you. But if you're having two people who are diametrically opposed to each other on the political spectrum, you're looking at somebody from the Unity Party and somebody from the ANC or somebody from the NDR, which perhaps may not even have the same political ideology. So how cohesive is that ticket going to be? Mr. Cummings should look for somebody within his own party. If he says that he's bringing something new and doing something different, his ideology should be fomented with great people from his own party that can help him foster and carry on his agenda for the country. If he's not able to do it, so he shouldn't go to the United Party. He shouldn't go to, if nobody else, find somebody from your own party. The same thing for the old man. He should do it for the United Party. Crucial tonight. And I want to
Thank
tell Mr. Congo, thanks for being balanced again tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, the other caller dropped, so that's all the calls we have tonight. I don't want to keep this, but I'm tempted. Mr. Dolake, I want you to react briefly to that, and then we'll.
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, to compare retired suffering rally with what could be almost equivalent to a convention where a nomination or declaration of that nature of a certain president who have been sanctioned for massive and wanton corruption in the country, who 3 officials have been sanctioned because it is believed that he's an accomplice to those stolen wealth from our country, it is just uncomparable. So it means that I'm not trying to reduce the president's popularity. I'm saying emphatically that the signs that President Weah can no longer be popular than 2005, 2011, and 2017. He has reached a zenith. He on a downward slope. And it must be comprehended as scientific evidence that to deduce that President Weah launched 2017 on a Friday without no day in between. And Mr. Cummings and the ANC were given the next day. But let me answer to a question why opposition want to go take someone as a vice standard bearer in another party. That's not another party, Elvis. When people consummate ideas and have collaboration and alliances and agree upon terms and agreement, of course, they can do that. It is within the realm of political engagement. So that is why President Weah chose Joao Taylor for NPP. Let it be honest too. That is why the United Party had 3-party merger. So we are, and lastly, Mr. Cummings, speaking of someone different, it is not about dialectical ideas. No, it is someone with different personality and characterization, but for the good of the forward march of the country, that can do things differently that he, Mr. Cummings, may not be able to do. That is the accent. Blaney, that is why you take the old and the young and Blaney as vice presidential candidate to produce good results.
Thank you. And gentlemen, I beg your pardon if each of you can take 1 minute each and speak to this issue, because it came out and our audience people sent me text, want people on Tough Talking Thursday to talk about it. There is a gentleman called Sheikh Sackor. I believe he said he came forward as a friend or a friend of President Weah, and he has donated, he has helped the campaign, and now he's being cast away with millions of dollars that he got or that was donated to the president through him, and now they don't want to deal with him. He has to pay that money. In fact, there were threats on his life, and so he has left the country. I think it was a post that went around, and he was also on a sister network explaining these things, right? Mr. Duopo, I think you watched the video and you read it. What you make of it? And the reason I brought this up is this is not the first time people have come forward to say the president, we were together, we did this when he got the power. He kicked me in the backside, and here am I. I'm away now. He's not. I mean, people keep coming forward. And anytime people come forward, we have 2 reactions. People that support the president will dismiss such a person and say, why now? People that love, people that are in the opposition will say, we told you so. This guy is a bad man. So I want I want you to speak to this. What's going on here? Is this president, is he some Italian mafia that is duping everybody to his own advantage? Is he this cool and calm guy who doesn't like trouble? Or is he the person that taking, okay, this man is this way, let me go there and get piece of the pie? What's going on here? What's your read? What's your interpretation of all these events?
Well, I saw the interview, and one of the great political scientists called T. McCann Stewart postulated that a man voted for is a man lost. A man voted for is a man lost. Because he believed that power detaches people from reality, people who were in the thick of things with you, who were in the trenches with you. many a time when somebody emerges from those trenches and, assumes political power, he's detached from those people who were his foot soldiers. And it's not just unique to Mr. Weah, it's, about gamesmanship and power calculation and all that goes into the whole power dynamics. It's a dynamics, So I don't put a lot of currency in people's feud, people beefing and feuding. I don't put a lot of currency in that.
Let me stop you, Mr. Dupu.
Because
he said he donated all, he has lost all his money because of this, and there was threat on his life. And he gave an example of other people being killed. So this is not just.
I'm not one who engages in the personal, feud between people, because I'm not privy to some of those things, and most of those things have not had any substantiations. I'm not going to make any, guess beyond what I heard and what I read. So, these things are personal, relationships that all of us here were not privy to. We don't know the nuances of everything that happened. We can't make any conjecture here. It will undermine this platform. We're not like other platforms. We differentiate ourselves from gossips that are not, things that are not substantiated. Between people, business relationship, personal relationship that happened when we were not privy to, we were not there. We should just read about it and, talk about it, informally. But to bring it here, I think it will undermine the credibility of this forum, because, those are things revelations that are unsubstantiated. So that will be my own take on the whole issue, and I will just rest and hear what other people will say.
Right. Mr. Dolaka, they say, you heard Mr. Dopu, but in my village, they say, you don't believe witchcraft until the witchcraft now eat your own baby, right? So when they kill you, before you think witch doesn't exist, but when the witchcraft grab your baby now, then you understand. What's your take in? And this is not the first time people keep coming forward and saying this kind of thing, very similar. And from what I heard when I was researching about this, they said there are even more people to come. We saw, George Solo. We heard of now this new name, and many others have come forward. What's your take? What's going on here? Is Mr. Weah this sophisticated that he's duping everybody and he keep holding the CDC and he's moving forward and people still like him? What's your take?
I think realistically, Weah may calm people by his likeness, and they just fought for it, they lure people into it, and then they stay longer time to observe, and so that they don't benefit, or some of the contracts of the agreement get broken down, and then they feel frustrated because Weah calls himself Sicilian. Sicilian is a form of cartel in Italy. So when they feel duped, then they get angry and they get out. But I want, in as much as we cannot lay hands on the facts on the book, but there are correlations that we can draw to this analysis of Sheikh, I think you need Ibrahim Sackor, that we can draw. This man was an NSA agent.
Right.
He made business with President Weah. He connected President Weah. He called names of people. His intervention, he called his business name, what business he was involved in. So to a larger extent, he gave a lot of information. President Weah's son even gave him a voice recording. That is sufficient. But what is interesting is that this man brought a Russian. Now understand the relationship between Russia and Liberia. And then these Russian people are believed to be duped according to the allegation. And this man was fighting his way through it, and he got out of Liberia. He called also Tabata name. Now, when the 4 auditors died, there was some level of police brutality that was carried on some slum community or some ghetto. And then people from that place came and announced one Sabato, who he and his son were involved in the killing. And what drew our attention to it was the last auditor, the guy called, I think, Van Bomo or something, I can't pronounce his name well, that was driving in a pickup and he got chopped up. And then the CDC government said that he made an accident. But when his body was revealed, there was huge cut on his head and all part of the body as though he was chopped up with knife or axe. So this revelation, and going back to the Menisky sanction, where George Weah was soliciting ex-generals to join his ranks in order to intimidate his opponents, can clearly give a correlation, especially when the president's first account on Gifted and the other fellow, Peters, was that they were in boyfriend and girlfriend thing, to the extent to which Gifted husband, Lama, said that his wife had sand on her foot in her car. So it just left over a lot of speculation, and we cannot believe any close better than what those people who were close to President Weah said. If the president agent can escape for him on travel, what else we do not know that we want to talk about?
Thank you. Mr. Sharif, these things are happening too much now. And the volume doesn't make them true. I want to just say that, or the number of times it have happened. But they keep happening. And as I said previously, those who support the president will dismiss it. Those who, on the other side would. But there are other issues that we can look at and say, let's wait a minute, what's going on here? With how we really don't get the end of it. We don't see investigations being concluded, or when they are concluded, there's still much to be desired.
Well, when you say these things have been happening too many times now, I don't know, or I have been on a hunting trip,
right?
But no, I don't know.
Many people fell out with the president and came up with these very similar stories, and they called names and other things with the way the president deals with former world generals. That these people continue to be around, and we still don't see anything being done, and they are being incorporated. And we have heard stories about some of the things that these guys are doing in the dark.
Dennis, we got to, I like what Mr. Duopo said. If you are going to set the bar high for the platform, I think we should stay away from conjectures and these kinds of discussions, because in everything there are two sides. Until we hear the other side, is just a one-sided story. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at just hearing whatever somebody says about Dennis, and I am, getting up to run.
Do you think we're going to hear from the president on this one?
Well, I don't know. I can't speak for the president. I don't know.
Because the last time we heard the Solicitor General discussing about human heads and all these things. So,
human heads?
Yeah, human heads. He was on a leaked audio tape discussing with Ellen Cochran about human hair, and they called the same general one Oforiata, and all this going on. So,
Oforidia,
right? Oforiata was my.
Listen.
So a lot of these things.
All of those things, but those are two totally different things.
Those things killing. When people get killed and the investigation is not really conclusive, and we continue to hear these things. So this guy is running away, say they are after him.
Okay. On what you are saying about the gentleman who was making the accusation, there's not a whole lot I can say about that.
Okay.
Because it is basically an accusation. But let me tell you the little I have seen about the George Weah that I have seen over the years. I think for the most part, he's a peaceful guy. Where he's been labeled as, going to really deal with people and going into killing and all of, I think that is far removed from the character of this man. I mean, these are political times, but we should
How
be
you know that,
careful.
Mr. Sharif?
How you know that?
How do you-
Because during the war, this man was the peace ambassador for UNESCO. Okay, and I don't think he
even
got that
Satan,
title. I'm
even
coming. I'm
Lucifer,
coming.
even Lucifer was in the choir. So
Okay, I'm not speaking of Lucifer. I'm speaking specifically of President Weah.
yeah.
In during the years of the war, because of everything he did to maintain the peace in Liberia by bringing what a smile on the face of the young people in Liberia by ensuring that Liberian soccer was promoted and using his own money to take Lone Star on different trips. He was asked to be a peace ambassador for Liberia. I mean, for the UN, which was actually UNESCO, and he played that role for many years. And also, when President Salif also became president, she asked him to play a similar role. There are no records of President Weah doing any of this. I mean, like Mansfield said earlier, he was quoting this politician. Politics will reduce it. Yes, once you are in a political limelight, people make accusations of you. People are going to say things about you. Whether it's true or not, they don't care. But we have to be careful about some of the things we say. But if
Thank
you
you.
ask me personally, George Weah is not someone that would go and hurt anybody. Thank you.
you. Thank you. Mr. Gonglo. Mr. Gonglo, please mute yourself.
All right, so Dennis, here is my take. First, the sad thing in Liberia, which is sometimes I get discouraged and I try to more or less take a position that may be unpopular to people who have known me for a while. It's the fact that we keep reproducing the same set of decisions. During Tabata time, there was this allegation that I think an American ambassador, something happened to him, and I think the Togo government was, suspected or something. And other killings took place on the Togo. When the Doe administration came to power, they want to talk about rampant corruption. They didn't look back into some of what happened on the Togo regime that was considered probably political killing. They didn't, or alleged, suspected thing. They didn't look into it. When they went through the war, when we had somehow democratic elections in 1997, President Tito decided not to look at the excesses of the Doe administration, something that could be investigated actually happened under government watch, not what happened during the war. Like the massacre of the university students on August 22nd, 1984. They decided not to look at it. And so many other stuff that happened. President said he came to power, same thing that Taylor did, thing that happened under President Taylor as elected president of Liberia. She didn't know that. George Weah came to power. Harry Greaves was murdered, in my view. George Weah decided that the government will not look away. So we don't value lives in Liberia. Now we have Weah. Who knows? After Weah, subsequent government will cover all these political things that are considered alleged political murders. So my question, and that has been even my stand when I was a student, I don't believe in the saying that, we should have our comrade buried in a bad institution to give us information. It calls for integrity. If this government is bad, we should not have an ally working there. We can get information always. Integrity is important. The fact that some people will find it not problematic to go into alliance with Weah, that I personally strongly felt then. I had people who talk to me and say, hey, come and vote for President Weah or come and do this. And I said, no, I don't think I can. There were powerful people in the city government who talked to me, some of them I was close to, who say, hey, we can't support Boakai. We can offer you $50,000, organize a group to support Weah. I said, no, my vote is not for sale. In fact, I feel insulted that you're telling me this at my age. I will go and support Boakai on this. Okay? Boakai was none of my choice when I was living in the US. When I went to Liberia, I have to change because I realized that the establishment, the ruling establishment that's headed by Sali, was not supporting Boakai. So
Right.
what am I saying this? What I'm saying,
I've come to
all
that.
these guys are coming or all these things were part of the what they going against today. The money he wanted, if he had got the money, we would never know about some of the things he's revealing today. For me, that is usually the turning point. Why accept to go into something that you fundamentally disagree with only to review it later? When people do that, I actually get angry with people who do that because I don't do that. I don't believe that I will willingly go into something. If I do something, if I go into something that I think is bad, and I think later I look back and say bad, I will be quiet because I'll be ashamed to talk about it.
So basically, you are saying like one guy said in Nigeria, he said, if you come to crook Nigeria and Nigeria crook you, don't cry.
Oh yeah, I mean, the next to support you in the 90s, the so-called 419. It was not even just like that. It was in the federal government position. The foreign minister at the time, one I think Akin or something. He spoke. He said the Westerners that have been crooked that were running to Nigerian government to arrest Nigeria in Nigeria, they said they will not do it because first of all, the citizens of the Western country or developed world, they agreed to conspire with Nigerians to cheat the federal government, and they just get duped out of it, and they want the Nigerian government to take action. So the government official position was, you should arrest your citizens also who first agreed to cheat the Nigerian government. If you arrest them, then we will arrest our citizens. That was our position. So that's how 401k people were rushing to Nigeria because were running back to Nigeria because they were protected by the Nigerian government policy.
Thank you. And that's why in that interview, I wish the question he was going to ask was, what was your incentive going into this? What did you stand to benefit from this thing? You know, before and where are you now? But time is fast spent. Let's get to the Tabata of the week, and then we can draw down the curtain. What is your Tabata of the week? And Mr. Sheriff, you're not going to escape this one this time. Let me start with Mr. Gonglo. What's your Tabata of the week?
Well, my Tabata would be the two pastors that were never ordained by any ordained,
how you know that?
Oh, President Weah showed me his ordination by what I mean. I think he was street evangelist. He didn't go to any Bible school, nothing. Maybe Reverend Al Shatton. He's a preacher. And the same thing with Senator Johnson. We don't know much about which Bible school you went to, okay? So these are people who basically claim the title, use their powerful position. Prince Johnson never established a church until he became senator. Georgia never established a church until he became president. So for both of them to begin to wrongly use a pulpit that should be a place to reconcile and console people to forget about our mystery, but in fact, they are inflating the mystery of the nation from the pulpit. I think is total nonsense.
Mr. Dopu, what's your Tabata of the week? You are muted. Can you unmute yourself, please?
Yeah, my Tabata of the week. The U.S. ambassador has been pounding on the Liberian government. I can say that, although after the basketball diplomacy, things have not really gelled like we thought it would have gelled. I heard recently that the U.S. ambassador was concerned about U.S. taxpayers' money being misused. And one of the counters he kind of tried to pick on was Margibi County. You know, I don't know if that's a political calculation because there's a certain person who intends to run for the senatorial seat in Margibi County that is not in the good graces of the U.S. government. I don't know if that is a diplomatic calculation to forestall that person's, quest to run. We can only, read through the tea leaves what the ambassador is actually getting at. So we will still watch that. And I think, of all the counties in Liberia that, have taken USAID money, Margibi has been, is being used as the punching bag. So we'll still watch that and see how, because we were told that
thank you.
They are not very happy for certain people who are on the sanction list to
Say
run for
McGill.
any
Why are you
public
saying certain
office.
people? Say
So
McGill.
we will watch that and see how it plays
Right.
out.
But that's not Magi alone, though.
Well, so Margibi, I have a home in Margibi, and I hope that our county will still benefit from those USAID money, because I'm sure the U.S. Embassy or USAID, when they give these money out to institutions, there's some level of financial probity that one has to, conform to. So that's my Tabata.
All right. This one from Neseko said Dennis Yah would never be fair to the Liberian people because he's part of the corrupt Weah team. To me, that's the greatest Tabata of the night. People just come and just throw all these things. Mr. Sherry, what's your Tabata of the week? Again, Tabata, for those who are new, is nonsense. Mr. Sherry, let's go. Your Tabata of the week.
But you keep muting me.
No, there's a feedback. So when you're not talking, that's why I muted.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I told you I'm not very good at this, but I'm going to tell you more of a joke. I was driving along the boulevard, and there was this motorcycle, and there was really nobody near him. Threw this lady down, and he got up and started arguing with the lady that the lady was not sitting properly. That's why the motorcycle fell. I thought that was hilarious.
Because you're the driver.
Thank you. Mr. Dulake, what's your Tabata of the week?
My Tabata of the week is Sheikh Ibrahim Sackor revelation, National Security Agency personnel, NSA personnel, who turned in his badge and has revealed a lot of things. My issue here is that if he decided to enter into a business with President Weah, I mean, all of us cannot be smart to know everything. And he chose to do it guessing best intent. Even if you enter a business, you want something out of the business. That's why you enter a business. So he wanted something, obviously. But for President Weah to consistently and repeatedly be pronounced his name, be pronounced in duping of his colleagues, and trying to make himself quite better than all other persons, and he's the Mr. Right, and all other persons are wrong, is something that worth looking at very seriously. And that is where Sheikh Ibrahim Sackor and others who have revealed their own revelation have made Liberians now to start to believe that President Weah may have his own essence with how he handle friendship and how he go into business in terms and
so what's your Tabata?
My Tabata,
my Tabata is a revelation of the NSA person.
Okay, thank you.
Infanta says about Weah.
My Tabata is of the week is a journalist went to the home of a man who is sick, Mr. Jones Dopo, and he's sick. What he really needs now is help to take care of him. His voice is even his daughter said even his memory is not right, And the journalist had the audacity to ask if he's the biological father of President Weah. To me, that was complete Tabata. And the mother of President Weah is there and said who the father is. The journalist had no, there was, I don't know what was the reason going that length to say, hey, is it true that you are the father? And the man was not even really responding, even though he said yes, but you could see that he's ill, he's old, and why now? To me, that was complete Tabata. Our viewers also are sending their own Tabata. Frederick, Achimo Frederick said, my Tabata is the head of the chief vow to pay individuals that travel to CDC headquarters. Ruga said, my Tabata of the week is a banner that read side check for Weah during Weah petition program. That was doctor, because the original one that came out said daughters of Weah. And I think somebody who cleverly know about
computer.
Yeah, did that. But it came as daughters of Weah. Masa Colley said, my Tabata is Dennis failed to show a complete picture of the guy who was beaten and dragged today from the capital in Monrovia. I don't know. In fact, we are scheduling Randall to be on the show tomorrow. So this guy has been doing some solo advocacy at the city hall. He was beaten there, NEC, and now the capital.
Civil disobedience.
Sam Wallace said the Tabata of the week is simple. The coming surrogates pretending the CDC program was insignificant. Echo chamber in overdrive. I think that's all the Tabata we have for the night. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. Time is fast spent, and we need to draw down the curtains. Let me see if there's any other Tabata. This one from Kennedy. My Tabata is the took to collect money from GMB fundraiser was completely empty. I don't understand that very well. I think there's a fundraiser going on. Maybe that's what they're speaking to. My Tabata is your panelists claim that U.S. ambassador picked on McGibby when in fact McGibby County health officers were caught on audio stealing U.S. government money. Right, and someone sent me that audio tape. I couldn't kind of validate it, so that's why I didn't go there. Gentlemen, thank you again for coming. At this time, we will get your closing comments if you can use 50 seconds each. Let's start with Mr. Adman Sharif, who is in Monrovia and is very late over there. Mr. Sharif, what's your closing comment?
Dennis, I will tell you what I said the other night. There are a lot of good things that are happening in Liberia. You have to be here to see them. It is not all bad as people think. And with what we are seeing, and even all the noise that is going on around the country, especially what we are hearing out of Nimba, if elections were held today, I think a lot of Nimbayans would vote for President Weah. These are real things that are happening, and I think we need to really open our eyes and begin to look at the good things that are happening in our country. Thank you.
Should we talk about the bad things too, or just the good? Tash Kanise Matabata fake 1 million man march proclaimed by CDC. And Darling Warwood say Matabata of the week is the demonstration of Jesus being nailed on the cross between a thief in George Weah and a murderer in Prince in PYJ Monrovia.
I like this one.
Mr. Gonglo, your closing.
Well, Dennis, thank you guys for sharing the panel. Here what I will say, as we are in 2023, my question would be that it's important for the opposition to really recalibrate that message for the ruling party. We are an incumbent, like any other incumbent. They have vulnerabilities. particularly in urban communities like Monrovia. I believe we can easily beat Weah. We can repeat what Dillon did to the CDC in Monrovia. And we do that, it will be difficult for Weah to win. Okay? Because Monrovia is the epicenter of political activities. But we cannot mimic the same criticism of Weah from Monrovia. We can't take it to Sando. We can't take the same thing to Nimba. We can't take the same thing to Lofa because they are local concerns. Rural voters have different issues that attract them. If you go to my village and you say no drugs in JFK, it doesn't make sense to them. But if you go to them and say the teacher that's teaching here or the road that come here, the road is bad. The reason why it's bad, the Monrovia people don't like it or they will not build a road because they don't drive on this road. It will make sense to them. We have to we have to put our message in compartment and move across the country. Weah is vulnerable, we can defeat him, but we should not go on one side of criticism from Monrovia and all through the country. That would be my caution.
Thank you. Mr. Dolake, you're closing.
Thank you. First, I want to say that thanks for the opportunity given today. And there's in no way that discussing human lives, threat on the life of people, killing related to corruption should give an inclination that we are lowering the bar on this platform. If Sheikh Ibrahim made a statement as an NSA person and we're trying to make sense of it, is no way in lowering the bar of this conversation. People have been killed in our country mysteriously. It has been to the concern of all Liberians. It is part of the political, debate and arguments around corner as we approach 2023, October. And so they represent family heads, they represent homes, household, and they have been able to make intervention in the life of other people. So if they die in an unreasonable manner without proper investigation and there are revelations coming from there, we have to speak about it. But I'd like to close on the fact that those who are up on the ANC are not saying that the stadium was not packed. We are not saying that people did not turn out to support President Weah. President Weah won 40 out of 15 counties. President Weah had more votes in Mesorado County. So for 10,000, 15,000 people to turn out and fill ATS like 10,000 space and people gather all around the street, it is not impossible. All that I'm saying on the facts is that when Mr. Cummings came to politics, he was not that popular. But President Weah launched on a Friday and Mr. Cummings launched on a Saturday, 2017, and the stadium was jam-packed. So the issue of a stadium being packed is moot. It's not an issue to discuss. What we are discussing here now is how 100 million worth of drug lay into our country through our major port of entry, and no agents of government are taking responsibility or have been penalized. What we are saying here is about EPS officer wearing regalia of political party, and we don't know as to whether they are partisan and they are not being reprimanded by action. What we are saying here, finally, Mr. Dennis Jar, is that for our country to have decency, people must be able to account for crimes they allegedly committed. And so those who have been sanctioned by the president, by the Treasury Department or designated, we are saying that until President Weah comes on the committee that is set up to investigate, we will go through all the length and breadth of our country. Liberians will be back in Liberia for voter registration, and by the grace of God, some are going to be there to go through all the length and tell our people that if the man that is just doing girlfriend and boyfriend with you with first time is not committed, he beating you, he causing your parents, he not get time for you, he say, "I'm put CCTV up." If there is no security door, there is no light, that man will be more disgruntled when he finally gave him the approbation that he's the most popular, he's the most trusted, he can live for another 6 years. And our people will see wisdom in it to make the correct decision come October 10, 2023, to reject President Weah and CDC-led government.
Thank you. Darling say, I didn't read his Tabata. Darling, I read yours, and then Mr. Gonglo say he loved it. But tomorrow at 6 o'clock, join us here for the Literary Hour with Professor K. Moses Nawe and the scholar Jackie Sayer. The topic, Liberia and the question of blackness. You don't want to miss that. Then at 8 p.m., we have at 8 p.m., that's not the right one, but 8 p.m. on the same day, we have our Friday night debate. That's 8 p.m. on Friday. Then on Saturday, 7, we have the History Channel. We're going to be talking about President Arthur Barkley. Presidents of Liberia series continuing with President Arthur Barkley. You don't want to miss that. Sunday, 12 noon, we'll have the noonday. The noonday with Priscilla Nyanto will be here on Sunday, 12. The guest is Jen Nwahoya. She's the founder of Embrace Your Scars. The topic, conversation on domestic abuse, on domestic violence. You don't want to miss that. Also, the Hour of Politics, an exclusive with the aspiring Dr. Clarence K. Moniba, will be here Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern. Then Monday at 7, the whole Western Cluster thing. The company there, the first company before the Western Cluster was the National Iron Ore Company, NIOC. So former employees of the NIOC will be here to talk about the plight of the former NIOC workers and appeal to President Weah to step in. Well, they need a severance pay, and it was agreed that when Western Cluster takes over, they will pay that money. So since Western Cluster got the deal, they want their money. They will give us the technical history of Western Cluster and also the deals, the different deals that brought the Western Cluster into what it is today. Always focus on Liberia. We educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. The Global Affairs Analyst, you got the last word.
Thank you, Dennis, for such a stimulating debate. Very good discussion. Very fine gentlemen who I'm honored to share the platform with tonight. I mean, that what makes FOL, that what differentiates FOL from the park. You know, we elevated discussion, devoid of personal attacks. People express their viewpoint, without any hindrance. So I just want to say, we have a very good platform focused on Liberia. I've always enjoyed being a part of it. Many of my friends have called me. I've shared the show, after subsequently with friends. They've called me and they've told me how, impressed they are with this, your presentation. And you just announced a slate of programs, it shows the depth, of focus on Liberia, the caliber of people that, are associated with this platform. That's why I always, want our discussion to be, devoid of the personal things and all that shenanigans. But coming back to the crux of our discussion tonight, and the whole, Weah momentum, I think is real. The opposition should not discount that. Incumbency is very powerful. The president has the bullet puppet. People listen to him. I think for me personally, I'm interested in a vibrant democracy. I'm not one who would suggest for a one-party dominance of our political architecture. I want a vibrant opposition because they are also part of the political calculation. Opposition political parties are also part of the national mosaic. They have a duty to their partisans, their supporters, in articulating their vision for the country. Because, there'll be a day where Mr. Weah and the CDC might not be in power. So those people who are aspiring for political offices, the highest political office in the land, should be prepared on day one to take on the mantle of power. So I'm one who encourage, political participation. No matter your orientation, your persuasion, we are all Liberians and we should work for the betterment of our country. So the VP Boakai situation and the slow pace that he's taking in cultivating that momentum towards picking a vice standard bearer, even Mr. Cummings. I think, like I said earlier, politics is about timing. Time is of the essence. The more you delay, I mean, we have, what, 6 months, barely 6-7 months to elections. You have to keep the momentum. You have to keep the public engaged that you are serious for this job. Because it's not easy, you know, in Africa or whatever to win, you know, an incumbent. It's a hard bar. You have to really work towards amalgamating that force that were on seat, you know, the CDC. They are very entrenched. So we talked about that. We talked about the feud between Mr. Weah and Mr. Johnson. That's a relationship that, to me, is kind of asymmetrical right now. Somebody has to blink, and who has the leverage? I think Mr. Weah has been accused on many occasions of harboring Mr. Johnson, the whole crime code and all that stuff. Mr. Johnson has always found comfort in Mr. Weah's corner. So I think it's about high time those who are around him, the senator I'm speaking of, to advise him to tune down the rhetoric, to meet the president on, you know, privately for them to discuss whatever situation, you know, they are beefing about, feuding about. So it's not very good for our democracy for leaders of the country to be clashing, especially in a public way. You know, although we can have differences of opinion, it's also good to be diplomatic in those approaches. But I want to thank you so much for the time. I enjoyed the program. I've always enjoyed being on the show, and I enjoy the questions and the comments by the viewers. Very engaged viewership, you know, very articulate people. So thank you so much, and I wish all of you a pleasant good night. Thank you from Minneapolis.
Thank you. And we are experiencing a problem of they call it shadow banning. Facebook is restricting our views on Facebook. That's why if you watching us on YouTube, so when they do that, you don't get your feed. People don't get notification when you come on, and also your feed doesn't appear. They say it happens. We've been researching and investigating. It happens when people start to report you, maybe because of political reason. If some people feel your views doesn't align with their views, so they kind of, as in the word of Mr. President, blackmail you. So that's what we are going through, but we're going to get through it. We're still going to fight hard and make sure that what we have here will come your way all the time. On that note, we want to say again, thank you to our panelists, thank to our viewers, even those who will watch later. Always, we've chose to educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia, and that's what we're going to do. Let's close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.